Welcome to Half 2-4. Today in the show, the big transfer robbery of London Chelsea. Florentino Perez closes a mega deal regarding Cucurella and comes out on the finish line with Enzo Fernandez, while Kylian Mbappe openly reacts to memes about the dictator and admits his egoism in Real Madrid, which cost the club trophies. Also today, Munich Bayern arranges madness for 110 million euros and the official appointment of Amorim as the new manager of Italian Milan. About all this and much other, we speak right now. Now, about this, it is possible to speak as about an officially completed fact. Insider Fabrizio Romano released his signature. Here we go. Ruben Amorim becomes the new head coach of Italian Milan. All details, about which we thoroughly told you yesterday, fully confirmed. The sides reached a full oral agreement and coordinated the conditions of the contract, which will be valid until June 2028 year. Furthermore, the agreement contains an option of automatic extension for one more season until the summer of 2029 year. The Portuguese specialist accepted absolutely all financial and administrative conditions of the management of Rossoneri and will sign official papers already by the end of this week. The loud coaching castling, which freed Manchester United from gigantic payments, is officially completed. The Japanese again gave to the entire world a grandiose lesson of culture, education, and cleanliness directly on the fields of the World Cup 2026 year. They once more attracted to themselves the attention of the entire planet when they massively remained on the stands of the stadium after the completion of the match of their national team against the national team of the Netherlands. Instead of celebrating or going to rest, Japanese fans united, pulled out huge bags for garbage, and took to thoroughly clean up after themselves and other spectators. This amazing performance reflects their deeply rooted feeling of respect and collective responsibility, which they assimilate from early childhood. When one of the Japanese fans directly on the stand was asked why they do this and what for they need to spend their time on cleaning the arena, she answered very simply and at the same time genially. That's the culture. It's respect for everything. Respect for the players, the supporters, and also respect for the stadium. We are honored to be here, so we don't want to make a mess and leave it. However, the real magic consists in that this fantastic philosophy is shared not only by people on the stands, but also by the football players themselves. After a hard draw with the Netherlands, the players of the national team of Japan once more left their locker room in an absolutely flawless, ideally clean state. From shiny lockers in the tunnel room to fans who clean out sectors, Japan continues to cause sincere admiration at each World Cup thanks to its amazing respect, discipline, and attention to details. Agree. After such moments, it is simply impossible not to be inspired by this nation. This is a real example for imitation to absolutely every player and fan on the planet. The national team of the United States of America indeed proves the football boom in America became uncontrollable. The starting victory of the trainees of Mauricio Pochettino over Paraguay with a score of 4-1 not simply blew up the stands, but established an absolute historical record on American television. According to official data of analytical agencies, on average, the transmission of the match on platforms Fox, Fox 1, and Tubi simultaneously was watched by 15,986,000 spectators. This is officially the most massive and most popular showing of a match of the USA national team in the entire history of the country. In the final minutes of the meeting, exactly when Giovanni Reyna was scoring the fourth goal and was putting a fat point in the rout, near screens was located a peak indicator of almost 19 million Americans. Furthermore, the game became the most popular in history by the number of streaming views. For you to understand the scale of the breakthrough, the interest to soccer in the States grew by 106% in comparison with the debut match of the Americans at the past World Cup in Qatar against Wales. Then the audience barely exceeded 7,760,000 spectators. And if to the English language transmission to add also the Spanish language broadcast of the television channel Telemundo and the service Peacock, which gathered additional 8,900,000 fans, Then, summarily, for the game of Christian Pulisic and company from home, watched almost 25 million people. The head coach of the USA national team, Mauricio Pochettino, after the final whistle, did not hide emotions and spoke with a loud warning to traditional American leagues. The manager stated on air of Fox, "Now people finally realize that football here in America became massive. It is huge. The next American sports should be very careful." It seems to the NBA, NFL, and baseball, indeed, the time has come to seriously strain. Munich Bayern arranged a real transfer madness, having set on the table in 1 week summarily 110 million euros. The bosses of the German giant closed at once 2 mega deals, moreover both for 55 million euros. Firstly, the Moroccan winger Ismael Saibari officially transitions to the camp of Bayern. The Germans completely closed the deal with PSV Eindhoven. The final sum of the transfer constituted pure 55 million euros. The player will pass a medical examination directly in the USA, where now he is located with his national team, after which he will sign a contract. So this officially became a record sale in the history of the Eindhoven club. Secondly, in parallel, Bayern closes the transfer of the left defender of the national team of Germany, Nathaniel. This week became simply fairy tale for the young defender of Frankfurt Eintracht. He scored a goal and gave an assist in his debut match at the World Cup, and now also forms a transition into the strongest club of the country. The deal between Bayern and Eintracht came out on the final stage. The sum of the transfer exactly, so will constitute 55 million euros. Particular epicness to this double transfer adds a unique fact. The bosses of the German giant buy players who right now arranged a real fire hype at the World Cup. Both newcomers distinguished themselves by taking of gates in their first matches at the World Cup. If about the fairy tale debut of Brown for the Germans already buzzes entire press, then Saibari answered with a no less amazing performance, having scored a goal in the first tour into the gates of the national team of Brazil itself. If to look at the logic of the club, here everything is understandable. Bayern reinforces at once 2 trouble zones, the attacking middle and the left flank of defense. Moreover, both performers are located on a crazy peak of their form. This is a classic strategy, buy while the asset grows in price. The Germans worked on anticipation, because after such performances on the fields of North America, the price for both football players would fly up to heavens. Friends, if you watch to this moment, then subscribe to the channel. It is not difficult for you and pleasant for us. And while you subscribe, we move further. The leader of the national team of France, Kylian Mbappe, before the start of his campaign at the World Cup, decided by loud statements to set all points over I, both in his political and in football career. First, the star forward reacted to old jokes of French media and fans about his allegedly colossal influence in the country. In an interview to the edition, Le Parisien, Mbappe, with a smile, stated, "I do not plan to become the president of France. I am already hated enough anyway." And here he can be understood, because social networks literally flooded memes about the so-called dictator Mbappe. This trend generally came out from under any control. Kylian exactly saw these videos, because who has not seen them? It is enough simply to enter in, search the little phrase, Dictator Mbappe, and to you will blow out thousands of videos which already gathered millions of views. The satire about that Mbappe himself manages clubs, dismisses managers, and signs laws in France became the main football meme of this year. However, immediately after political jokes, the forward transitioned to maximally serious things, publicly having recognized his main drawback on the pitch. Kylian openly stated that to him, urgently is needed to add in the game without the ball. "I must add in defensive actions. This is very important for the team, and I am obliged to do this. This will begin directly at this World Cup, because we want again to win it." And let's be frank, namely for the absence of defensive work, Mbappe is criticized the most. Yes, in his 2 debut seasons for Madrid, Real, the Frenchman demonstrated a crazy individual productivity, having scored summarily 85 goals and twice in a row having become the best scorer of the team. But what benefit is from this if the royal club for these 2 years did not win any substantial trophy. This failure of the Whites directly was connected with the egoism of Mbappe, his unwillingness to play on the team and concentratedness purely on his own statistics. While Kylian suffered from egocentrism in Madrid, the entire world saw the phenomenal Paris Saint-Germain of Luis Enrique. After the departure of Mbappe, the Parisian team turned into a single, ideally balanced organism, where absolutely all attack and absolutely all defend. The result of this team football shocked Europe. 2 in a row won Champions Leagues. It seems only now to Mbappe finally reach that in modern football, even forwards of cosmic level are obliged to work from behind if they want to raise overhead cups. Really, will we finally see a completely new Mbappe at this World Cup? Now, this is announced officially in the squad of the national team of Spain at the World Cup. Still will be a representative of Madrid Real. The bosses of the Royal Club managed to pull off this mega transfer and sign all papers directly before the first match of the Furia Roja at the World Cup. Marc Cucurella officially transitions to the camp of the Whites. The final structure of the deal looks classic for Florentino Perez. Real will pay to London Chelsea a fixed sum in the amount of 55 million euros, and another 5 million euros are prescribed in the form of various bonuses. The 27-year-old left defender himself signed a long-term iron-reinforced contract until June 2032 year. Jose Mourinho got his dreamed-of player, but the most interesting in this story is that how elegantly Real again wiped the nose of Barcelona. This is already the second transfer in a row, which Madrid insolently takes away straight from under the nose of its principal rival. First was the story with Bernardo Silva, where the Catalans were 100% sure in success and even coordinated with the Portuguese personal conditions. However, one telephone call from Jose Mourinho instantly changed everything. Now the situation repeated with Cucurella, whom Barca also actively led. Particular piquancy adds the fact that Marc is a product of the famous Catalan academy La Masia. The last football player with a background of Barcelona who transitioned to the camp of the 𝗗𝗘𝗔𝗟 was the legendary Luis Figo. More than that, Cucurella became the single representative of Real in the current registration of the national team of Spain at this World Cup. To me personally, incredibly pleases how the transfer staff of Real acts on the market as of 2026 year. Completely disappeared this exhausting, constant writing in the press about that the club shows interest or plans to begin negotiations. Everything happens lightning fast. In the media space appears the first information about contacts, and already on the next day, Fabrizio Romano writes that the contract is coordinated and the business is closed. By such scheme, Madrid already intercepted Denzel Dumfries, Ibrahima Konate, Bernardo Silva, and now Cucurella. Pure professionalism. And it seems the next in this list of Madrid robbery of Chelsea can become Enzo Fernandez. As reports the authoritative insider Ben Jacobs, the star Argentine midfield player burns with desire to join Cucurella in Madrid and even does not hide from the management of the Blues, his striving to leave the London club. The bosses of Chelsea keep calm, but are ready to let go the player if, for him, is laid out the correct price, which constitutes no less than £120 million sterling. Currently, the management of Real determines which, namely, profile of player to them is needed into the middle line, because in parallel on the table at Florentino Perez lie candidacies of Matheus Fernandes from West Ham and the leader of Manchester City, Rodri. If Jose Mourinho chooses Enzo Fernandez and Perez pulls out from pocket another bag with money, the London base of Chelsea can be boldly renamed into a branch of Madrid Real. But, friends, I must voice one more thought, and let the fans of Madrid on me strongly not get offended. Cucurella in Real will play together with Vinicius. As football players, they are simply fantastic masters. Here there are no questions. But their behavior on the pitch, these constant provocations, simulations, and appeals to referees, this is what, to me personally right now, the most does not please in modern football. And now they will divide one locker room and one flank. Honestly speaking, to watch this duo will be as minimum interesting Remember, we today mentioned about the fantastic PSG of Luis Enrique, which without egoism and toxicity won 2 Champions Leagues in a row. So then, the main architect of this merciless Parisian machine on the pitch remains at home. Ousmane Dembele is close to extension of the contract with PSG. Information from the authoritative edition RMC Sport fully confirms the bosses of Parisians activated negotiations to protect their leader from encroachments of other top clubs. Although at the beginning of the season between the sides did emerge financial disagreements, now the situation changed cardinally. And on this, there are 3 reasons. Firstly, Dembele arrived at this World Cup in the status of the current holder of the Ballon d'Or, which he absolutely deservedly took in September after a phenomenal treble of PSG, having formed 33 goals and 15 assists. Nasser Al-Khelaifi clearly understood that to save the best football player of the planet, this is a reputational task, number 1. And the club went on all financial concessions. Secondly, the 29-year-old Frenchman simply enjoys his new tactical role. Luis Enrique moved him from the flank into the center of the field, having made him the main creative engine of the team next to 𝗗𝗘𝗔𝗟, 𝗗𝗙𝗃𝗍, and 𝗗𝗓𝗄. Well, and thirdly, Ousmane himself already publicly closed all questions. In an interview to the program Rothen Sans Flamme on RMC Sport, he directly stated, "I remain here for the next season for 100%. At me is valid a contract until 2028 year. To me, everything pleases. Staff, players, president. If to me is offered a new agreement, I, with joy, will sign it." The final point in documents, the sides will put immediately after the completion of the World Cup, so that now Ousmane could calmly win for France the 3rd title. But the principled agreement already is reached. Friends, thank you for watching, and if you liked the episode, then do not spare a like and subscribe.
Yeah!